Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So we are currently 164 days away before the big day, Election Day 2024. And Donald Trump, once again, is leading the polls in every single key state, and he's winning the popular vote. And we've talked about this quite a bit for quite a while. But you're going to have people that say, well, the polls were wrong in 2022. And I have had my theories about that. I've discussed them at length. The number one theory is because a lot of pollsters later in the cycle, as in after mid-October when early voting started, likely did start to kind of underestimate those who already voted in the polls, which skewed left. I mean, it's a theory. It holds up across pretty much every single key state, though. So looking at that, it's like, well, were the polls all that accurate, or was there something late that was not exactly accounted for? Either way, that's not the point, because people will still say, well, what if the polls are wrong? What if the polls are wrong by the same margin they were in 2022? And I wanted in this video to do both that and also 2020. Look at the polls and say, okay, well, we're going to look at them as they were wrong in 2022 and then 2020 and kind of see, because you have a presidential year with Trump on the ticket, which is what this is. And then you have 2022, which is more recent. But again, midterm polling errors can be wonky. Polling errors rarely carry over. But we'll see what exactly happens regardless when we fill out this map. Is Trump even really in that bad of a position? Well, we're going to be taking a lot of things into account. But first, I have to tell you guys about our very good friends over at Gut Cleanse Protocol, because digestive issues are running rampant, and it's caused by a potential toxin that's in all of the, quote, healthy foods that scientists have been telling us to eat with a fraudulent food pyramid for the longest time. And this potential toxin causes digestive issues, according to Dr. Gundry, a world-renowned cardiologist, and it's affecting millions of people nationwide. Warning signs include weight gain, fatigue, digestive discomfort, stiff joints, even skin problems. Well, Dr. Gundry explains these side effects are often mistaken for normal signs of aging because digestive issues develop usually over a matter of years and sometimes even decades. I can assure you that the damage is probably caused by these quote-unquote health foods, and it's far from normal. The good news is you can easily help fix the problem for your own home. It's very simple. You just have to know which foods are actually healthy and which contain the hidden toxin. So you can go find it yourself at gutcleanseprotocol.com/eagle. That's gutcleanseprotocol.com/eagle. Because after years of research, Dr. Gundry has decided to release an informative video to the public, free and uninterrupted, showcasing exactly which foods you should avoid. Again, gutcleanseprotocol.com/eagle. You can find it in the description down below. So I think it's important to start with the electoral map and kind of see what the current lay of the land is, because we'll fill in Iowa, Ohio, Maine second. These are going to be safe. Texas, actually, well, the polls were accurate. The polls now have Trump winning it by close to 10, likely safe. We could just do, safe margins the entire way here, to be fair. And that's the way it is. Polls were also accurate in Minnesota in 2022 and Virginia, so we'll just fill those states in as well. But they did underestimate Republicans a lot in New Hampshire. Maine at large was about 50-50. But either way, we'll fill those out right there the way that they are. New Mexico, again, there wasn't a big error that was noticeable, but we don't have any new polling. We'll fill it out blue. Hawaii will fill out blue. But still, Georgia overestimated Republicans by around a point in the midterms, at least in the first round for Herschel Walker in the Senate race, but also the governorship. Trump's up by 4, so Trump would still take Georgia. And North Carolina, they underestimated the Democrat by around 3, even though the early polls underestimated the Republican Ted Budd by a little bit. They have Trump up by 5. So even if you want to say, well, we're going to cut that margin down to 2, Trump still takes North Carolina, and that's with a polling error. And then you go to Arizona and Nevada. Again, Trump is above the threshold in both of those states. Arizona, the 5-way race, he's, up by like 5.2, 5.3. That's very telling. Nevada also, the lead expands in the five-way. I think that the best point to use is kind of the one in between the two, because it is true you have more candidates in the running, but RFK Jr. is probably not getting 10% of the vote. So either way, even with the polling error from 2022, which was not 5.2 points or whatever in these states, Donald Trump is at 268. Now, it's true that he would fall short in Wisconsin. He would fall short in Pennsylvania. He would fall short in Michigan. It would come down to Nebraska second, where he leads the polls. But again, that one's iffy. But even so, even applying the polling error from 2022 that so many people will decry, well, the polls were off in 22, Trump's still in a good position to win. And there's no guarantee that the polling error would even be that big. So let's actually reset these states, and let's do this back in terms of the 2020 polls, because that we know. So either way, I think that we have all of the swing states. Yeah, we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the big 7. So the polls underestimated Trump in North Carolina. They have him up by 5. He'd take North Carolina. He would take Georgia. He would take Arizona. He would take Nevada as well. And he would also take Wisconsin by like 7. Pennsylvania, he'd take by the same margin because there was no polling error in the final aggregate. But keep in mind that final aggregate had a lot more right-leaning pollsters, so it's not even a 1-to-1 correlation. So even if you want to fill out these states right here, boom, and then Nebraska second, the only poll has them up by 3 points. Fill that one out that way or whichever way you want. It's irrelevant. We could even have it blue. Trump would win if you have a polling error in line with 2020, and he possibly would still win even if you had a 2022 polling error, which is absolutely insane, because if he got Nebraska second, which Republicans got in the midterms, that's 269 all. Trump wins in the House because Republicans would have a majority of state delegations in the U.S. House that would give Donald Trump a victory. It'd be a chaotic finish, but still, that's it. And I'm not saying things can't change or there couldn't be some monster anomaly of a polling error, but even when you look at the polls now and you compare it to the final polls of 2022, giving the polling error the benefit of the doubt the whole way through, which again, those polling averages were a little skewed by some right-leaning internals as well that were in the end aggregate. The final pollsters, or like the final Quinnipiac poll, if there was one out of some of these states, would be vastly different. And you see Quinnipiac polls in the aggregate in places like Wisconsin now. So that's kind of, changing how the average is being weighed. But even then, you see what's going on here. I mean, you can't say polling error is going to happen again. Obviously, you should try to account for it. You should try to act like you're down by a little bit, win by as much as you can. But again, presidential election, Trump on the ticket. Biden wasn't on the ticket in 2022, neither was Trump, but Democrats have this lower propensity voter advantage they didn't have, especially in the Midwest. And in a presidential year, that kind of diminishes a lot. To what degree it diminishes will determine who wins the election. I think that as of now, you have to say that Trump is the favorite. And what's even crazier is you want to look at polls in Arizona. Okay, half the polls in October had Katie Hobbs winning. But in order to find a poll with Trump losing in Arizona, you'd have to go all the way back to last April, and it was one of these DeSantis internals too that was basically paid to show DeSantis doing better than Donald Trump in key states. And even in those polls, they stopped releasing them because over time, even they couldn't, flub the numbers to have that advantage. So regardless of how you look at it, Donald Trump is in a very outstanding position in a lot of these states. And I categorized it here. Joe Biden hasn't led in Georgia since November, Nevada since October, Arizona since last April, not, last month, April 2023, North Carolina, March of 2023, and he hasn't led a poll in Pennsylvania in 2 months either. And on top of that, he hasn't really led very many polls in Wisconsin. And that's the one state that usually you will see, a severe overestimation of Democrats, with Donald Trump especially on the ballot. He's outperformed the polling averages both election cycles by like 6 to 7 points. I'm not even going to say he's going to do that again, but could he win it by like 3 or 4? Absolutely. The Quinnipiac poll's not going to age well. I think we know that. And this other pollster only had Biden by 1. The previous poll had Trump by 4. Then the next poll had Trump by 4. So this is an outlier. This is an anomaly. And we know that. But it's like, you look at this, it's like all these swing states, you know, if it's not like it's 50-50 or Biden's leading some polls and those polls might be right. It's very rare outliers that were very, very wrong in the past that has Biden ahead. And even then, just barely. And a lot of those polls weren't present in the aggregates in 2022. And even if you want to go back to 2022 in a lot of these states at this point, you know, John Fetterman was up by 10. You know, he only prevailed by like 4.7 or something like that. You know, Mark Kelly was leading by a lot. I mean, Kari Lake was down. You look at Wisconsin, Tony Evers was up by a lot. Michigan, I think Gretchen Whitmer was leading some polls over Dixon by 30. And Dixon didn't really spend a lot of money, didn't really run the best campaign. And Dixon fell short by 10, which again was the polling aggregate in late October. So in terms of the fear of a polling miss, I believe that there should be fear in all of us. I think we need to make sure we vote. I don't want people to get complacent, but that's not to say that Trump is not in a good position. There's a reason why he's winning over more donors. There's a reason why, you know, he's gaining support right now, despite being on trial and not even spending very much money. It's just because the general vibe does not look good for Biden, and the general hatred for Donald Trump and this woke wave of 2020 that kind of artificially inflated turnout, it's out the window in many cases. It's out the window. So we need to still fight like hell and get out to vote. It's not a done deal, and a lot can change in the next 5 months or so. But, I mean, Biden is definitely running out of time. That is why he's debating early. That's why he's, you know, got this sense of urgency, even if he wants to say in public, oh, all the polls are fake. He's not governing like the polls are fake, that's for sure. So keep that in mind. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.